This video is going to be kind of different than most of the other videos on this channel. Next week, we'll be back to 12 rules, and the week after that, we'll be talking about personality tests, and astrology, so if this video today isn't your type of thing, cool. See you next week. No hard feelings. Today's going to be a more personal video than I normally do because I have a lot of words floating around my head that I need to get out. So, sorry, I'm going to kind of unleash them on you. Yay! Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, hi, I'm Cass, and what a video for you to start with. I know in the January patron update I said I was going to be adding a fluffy video to the rotation, and this isn't quite what I meant by that. Hopefully this is a one-off thing, and we'll be able to do fluffy content in the future once a month, but yeah, there's stuff floating around my head that needs to stop, and doing this sort of thing in the past did help with the rumination, so again, sorry. Before getting into this, I want to take a moment to thank all of my subscribers. I know I'm still small beans in the grand scheme of YouTube, but I do deeply appreciate everybody who has subscribed. Your comments make me think and feel things. Even you lurkers who don't directly engage. I know you're there, and I appreciate you. On any other channel but mine, I would be one of you. Super special thanks to my patrons. You guys give me hope that maybe someday I'll be able to actually make a living off of this. I also want to say at the forefront that I'm incredibly grateful to everybody who's reached out to me or included me in YouTubery things. I don't know if you'd want to be name dropped here, but if you've reached out to me, I do appreciate it more than you probably know. Some of what's going to be said here today is recent, but a lot of it's been floating around my head for a while, just with me trying to find a way to incorporate it into a video. But some of these things probably just don't fit into any sort of normal content I make. We're going to go into some dark places in this video, so I will interrupt myself periodically to give a little bit of commentary or context for what's being said. I do have some insight, at least. I have to note at the outset that this is going to almost certainly be the harshest video on my channel because I'm going to sort of let the mask of normalcy slip and be frank with how I see myself. And if that sort of language is difficult for you, check out the warning at the beginning of this section. Timestamp will be below because, yeah, it's going to be kind of unfiltered. And if that's the case, I totally get it. I totally get it. See you next week. Don't sweat it. So yeah, this is me lifting up the mental health veil a little bit. Part of bringing awareness to mental health is talking about the parts that aren't pretty and shiny. As someone who might appear to have their things together, I kind of want to go behind the scenes a little and share what a moderately bad month looks like for me. And with as brutally honest as I might get in this video, just remember that the odds are there's a cat in that box. I guess one facet for the beginning of this stuff was the odd absence of the holiday season actually not being bad for me for once. Context. Typically my mental health status goes down the crapper around Thanksgiving up through New Year's. And I buried this a little bit, but I've got bipolar, generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, blah, 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 blah. You guys have heard this a million times before. So I don't think this is some sort of seasonal affective component because that would require seeing the sun. I'm happiest if I could live in a cave. Blackout curtains everywhere. I'm a night owl. Like, yeah. Plus, like, the holiday dependence and things that happened in my youth, I think is the stronger explanation. This holiday season came and went without much incident. Cool. Maybe I've got a handle on what kicks things off. Then mid-January rolled around. About a month prior, I'd gotten a huge bump from Curio, which was incredible. I can't thank them enough for that. But the momentum after that bump didn't continue. I mean, it was stupid of me to think that it would, but I kind of hoped. So, mid-January, looking at the analytics, and I'm kind of unhappy with the growth rate of my channel. I'm in my mid-30s. I've been dealing with this since my teens, so I've gotten a pretty good sense of how a mood shift feels in my brain and my body, sort of like a change in the weather. So low mood typically manifests itself for me as depression, irritability, lethargy, just, not really wanting to do stuff. But the depression and the irritability, for the most part, will kind of almost feel like a little storm cloud off in the distance. And it can hang out off in the distance and do its own thing, kind of leaving me alone. Like I can kind of feel it there, and maybe it'll even disperse, and just nothing will come of it. If. Large if. Huge if. Really bad law tech joke for you there. You're welcome. If my brain doesn't find something to latch onto to drag the whole process down to a screeching halt. This can be something major, like working out that we owed the state $400 in taxes. Or it can be something minor, like not being able to find my sweater after looking for 10 minutes. What this almost feels like is I've got these negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, just kind of in containment almost. They're in quarantine. And as long as my brain doesn't latch onto something, it's fine. They stay there. But as soon as my brain latches onto something, there went the containment and it all comes spilling out. And whatever it is, be it I stubbed my toe, I burned some toast, we owe in taxes, can't find my sweater, I wrecked my mom's car, no matter the severity of it, it almost always comes down to this one fundamental feeling I have, and it can basically be summarized as I'm a fat fucking piece of shit load who doesn't contribute, who ruins everything and wastes everything. My husband describes myself as my own worst bully, and he's probably right. But I'm not alone in this need of having to have my channel grow and grow now. I think that's part of the beast of being on any of the social media platforms, really. The thing that kind of tipped this over the breaking point was something kind of unrelated that I tweeted it about at one point. Story time. So, the last fluff video I attempted to record was an old makeup challenge I saw going around. In this challenge, you have the person who is better at makeup following the directions from somebody who isn't good at makeup but is listening and watching a tutorial. My husband found a Nikki Tutorials tutorial and walked me through it. We recorded it on a Saturday right before the patron live stream, and since I don't normally record until Monday, took the rest of the Saturday off, had a quiet Sunday, and then looked at the footage Monday. On Monday, I look at what we recorded and I'm horrified. I never really gotten past what I talked about in the body dysmorphia video with my face, but between the lights and makeup, plus getting better at editing, means that I'm usually able to at least tolerate what I'm seeing. The lack of makeup, the change in lighting, and worsening condition of my face was intolerable. My husband tries to assure me that I still look fine, that I'm not seeing what everybody else sees, and maybe he's right. I honestly don't know. I would like to believe him. It would certainly make my life easier, but I can't. Dysmorphia. All I can see are these jowls that are only going to get worse with time, plus other things with my face. And that's just my face. I abhor and am ashamed of every cell of my being. I wear sweaters to hide how disgusting my arms and my stomach are, and to hide some of the scars. Only shooting from the waist up to hide my awful lower half. Wanting to be finally able to fucking commit to being a disordered day to fix my body, but lacking the willpower to not eat and knowing enough to not bring stuff back up because I know somebody who died from it and I don't want to make my teeth worse. But all of that is just the tip of the shame iceberg. The thought crossed my mind of turning off comments for this video, and the reason might surprise you. Not clickbait. Maybe not, I don't know. Basically, like on my body dysmorphia video, there are positive comments from people trying to tell me like, I look fine, there's nothing wrong with my face, I have nothing to worry about, but I am incapable of reading those and internalizing those positive messages. On some level, I know that the people writing those comments mean well and might even mean what they're saying, but I can't believe that it's a sincere compliment. To get back to the linear thread here, I gave it another day. Nope, still monstrous. Another day. I can't edit this. I can't put this on the internet, so tweeted an apology, uploaded an old lecture chunk I had, and tried to move on. The depth of my pain and disgust went unremarked, and the mask of normalcy remained mostly in place. The issue here is that I think I can feel like the gravity just pulling my face down, like droopy dog. But as long as I stay busy, I can mostly ignore it. The rest of the shame iceberg comes from my perceived value or worth as a person. So I kind of obliquely touched on this in my trailing spouses video, where I haven't had a job since 2015, and even before then I was a part-time adjunct. So I thought that moving to Silicon Valley, somebody would have a use for a PhD cognitive psychologist. The rejection letters I've gotten, and not everybody, hardly anybody, sends a rejection letter, indicate that I'm either underskilled or overqualified. The truth probably also includes a 4+ year gap on my resume being something that people are not willing to look past. So on the one hand, statistics jobs and human factors jobs have changed since I went to grad school, especially here in Silicon Valley. Unless you have machine learning experience, quantitative, hands-on UX experience, SQL, like all kinds of things that aren't taught in psychology programs, they're not interested with you at the PhD level. On the other hand, for jobs that are looking for a master's or a bachelor's level, a PhD is perceived as a flight risk. Why on earth would a PhD be willing to take this job at a pay cut? Surely they will just leave the minute another job comes along that they're more qualified for, so we're not even going to bother. So I'm underskilled and overqualified, and that is the catch-22 I find myself in here. And in Before Take a Boot Camp, look at the prices of those. We can barely afford to live here. I can't sink $20,000 into something that may not guarantee a job for me. The single worker couple situation that we're in was sort of livable in the last place we lived. It was an oil town in the middle of nowhere, so it was more expensive than it had any right being, but it was doable. We were able to pay off my husband's student loans. We were able to build up savings a little bit, which got exhausted in the move here, but anyways, and you know, we were surviving. We still weren't able to go on super fancy trips or anything, but we were doing all right. We have since moved to one of the most expensive cities to live in inside the US. And get your tissues ready because these are some eye-watering numbers. Our rent for a 1,000 square foot 2-bedroom apartment that is 30 miles away from my husband's job with shitty traffic right outside is $3,500 a month. And it's normal to expect at least a $200 rent increase every year. If my husband takes advantage of the mass transit, he's looking at a 2-hour trip to work one way. And the infrastructure is kind of shit here, so these things are always full of people. So it's not like he can get extra work done on the way into or on the way home from work. And if we were to move closer to where his job is, rent prices go up dramatically. So as you can probably imagine, I feel an incredible need that I have to be contributing to our financial situation, and I'm not. I want to emphasize that this pressure is coming from me. My husband would be happy eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like, it's almost a game for him to see how cheaply he can eat. To me, it isn't fair that my husband has to go through this huge transit every day to go to work and is living below the quality of life of his work colleagues because he has a fucking worthless spouse. I feel like at this point, YouTube is my only chance at pulling in any legitimate income. I have a friend with a comparable degree who tried to get a job at things like Starbucks a couple years ago and was turned away because she has a PhD. Add in the complications of the various crazies I've got, and a place like Walmart or Best Buy probably wouldn't keep me around long because either I'd be calling in sick to work for various reasons or I'd be incapacitated from pain. Looping back to not wanting to invest the $20,000 in a boot camp, I had the realization at some point that getting a job at one of the tech giants would destroy me. Doing a 60 or 70 hour work week every week with maybe 2 weeks of vacation a year, I would be institutionalized in a couple months. I can almost guarantee it. Like, I can't do that type of job. I can't. And that's not even including the stupid nerve issue. YouTube or Twitch thoughting seem like my only options at this point. And I'm not really attractive enough for either, but at least on YouTube, I can pretend that my looks don't matter. Remember that this is an unfiltered version of reality that I have loudly screaming in my head. I have no problem with adults using their body or their sexuality to feed the needs of others in a consenting exchange. Just, I don't want to do that, or I don't even feel like I could do that. Again, patrons and subscribers, I appreciate each and every one of you dearly. Patrons, I do not want any of you bumping up your donations because of this video. So, I've got that sorted. What's the problem? I've been feeling pretty isolated and lonely in this job. And I say job because I'm not a YouTuber yet. I have 45 patrons, 3,500 subscribers, and again, thank you so much, both groups. And most months, I'm not above the threshold for the payout on AdSense, so it hardly seems like I'm at the job level of this yet. Maybe I'll feel differently at 10,000 subs, or if I could afford to pay for our food bills for the month, but I honestly don't know. I should be grateful for the subs and the patrons and discussions and everything that I have and have experienced, but I struggle to see past the inability of me to help our financial situation. All I can see myself as is a stupid load who isn't improving anything and just takes and wastes and ruins. My husband's boss retired recently, sort of. Academics are really bad at retiring, but there was a little party for him. And a bunch of people who worked with him over the years came by for this party, and it was really cool. A recurring theme that came up from these people was that, it was all well and good the science that they did, but the important thing for them was the experiences and the people and the friends that they made along the way. And I really see that with my husband's collaboration. They're like a family. They take care of each other and they care about each other. And it kind of breaks my heart a little that other than sort of my inclusion in that because of my husband, that's something I'm never going to experience. In grad school, my advisor's lab was kind of held together by the collective will of his grad students, and even then it was kind of shit. Every man for themselves. And this is partially just how psychology research is done in the US. In some labs, some labs did have a collegial, dare I say even friendly relationship between the people in charge and the people working for them, but I only saw them from the outside with my nose smushed up against the glass. Okay, cool, poor me. How does this relate to YouTube? In making the content I want to make and feel qualified to make, I'm sort of operating in my own little space here by myself. Not philosophical or political enough to truly be a breadtuber, not engaging enough with religiosity to be an atheist YouTuber, not wanting to become a commentary channel, and not fitting into or directly competing with the psychology that's on the platform. It's just me doing my thing, hoping that I can persuade people into watching this dumpster fire talk, and I don't think they will be. And that growth rate I mentioned earlier is twisted by my brain to indicate that I should just end it. Not the channel. Sounds like screwmabide? I don't know why I'm dodging words. It's not like algae's gonna favor this video. Something I'd always wished for and tried to find but have never gotten is a mentor. Somebody who believed in me enough to take me on, teach me what they know, guide me, you know, help me out. Maybe I could have experienced this in grad school if I'd had sense to switch advisors much earlier in the process, but I didn't. I don't know how much of this is because of the chaff I almost unconsciously throw off to give the illusion of competence, confidence, and that everything's okay. I've alluded to my family's financial situation at various points in this channel, where we were one step away from financial ruin. We qualified for food stamps for a bit of my childhood, but we didn't go on them because of my dad's pride. My dad taking cash advances on one credit card to pay the bills. You know, that sort of stuff. I learned to hide the less socially acceptable stuff, like the extent of that financial stuff in my background or mental health stuff, as I got further in my education. Tried. I mean, there's only so much you can do with teeth like this, or practically clinging to the lab's golden child the first time we had a conference out of state, and I'd never traveled before, so part of this hiding involves masking whatever my mental state is so that I'm able to go out in public and not draw attention. I have to be incredibly comfortable with a person, or in front of a camera, apparently, to really let those walls down. And the sad truth right now is my husband's worried about me. He sees all the behind-the-scenes stuff. So he knows how much I've been crying, agonizing over how I look, cursing at myself in editing this stuff, how bad I feel for not contributing. And the worst part of it is I feel guilty because he's been going through this for 20 years, over 20 years. Anyways, a consequence of this camouflage, where I think I basically have like resting I don't need help face, or I got this face, even when I don't, plus a crippling inability to ask people for help when I need it because I don't want to impose or waste their time or come across as stupid. Combine those and you've got me where I am. Yay. So back to the pity party on the suffer bus. I've reached out to a couple YouTubers to ask for help, advice, offer kind words, and almost universally have just gotten radio silence back. In fairness to those individuals who will not be named, they may have missed my message, they may have seen it, fully intended to respond and just gotten busy and forgotten, or even read it and decided that I wasn't worth responding to. In any case, I don't know. Also, since we're still in the self-awareness corner, those people don't owe me shit. Just because I watch their content doesn't mean I'm entitled to a chunk of their day that it would take to respond to me. Doesn't make it hurt less, but that's how it goes. Damn parasocial relationships. Also, this breaks the flow a bit, but I don't want to give the wrong impression. People who I've directly name-dropped, or who interact with me on premieres or on Discord, these are not the people I'm talking about. Those are the few creators who've actually noticed me and included me on things or helped me and make me feel like I'm not making a complete fool of myself on here. To re-emphasize, this is not the creator's fault. Even if they could have a two-way relationship with every single one of their subscribers, to expect or require that of them would be absurd. That lack of response hurts. And not just hurts, like, I can't keep watching their content without feeling awful, unworthy, excluded. So, in order to avoid feeling those things, I disconnect from them. I unsubscribe from the channel and over time train the mighty algorithm not to show me their stuff anymore. As a consequence, and not wanting to lose more content, I haven't even tried reaching out to the pillars of this corner of YouTube. Channels like Folding Ideas or H Bomber Guy, Philosophy Tube, people like Lindsay Ellis, or in this case, Natalie Wynn. To be clear, this is a me problem. My loneliness isn't and shouldn't be anyone else's problem but mine. To go back to the last Peterson video, which was Rule 8, Part 1, Truth, something, whatever, these creators have to have boundaries about who they'll interact with and how. So finally we get to why I'm talking about this now of all times. Natalie Wynn's content has regularly resonated with me despite our drastically different origin stories. I bumped up my body dysmorphia video because I felt like I had something to add to the conversation after her beauty video. I think she generally has that effect on a lot of people. In her cancelled video, she was talking about watching the James Charles situation unravel in horror, as she foresaw that happening to herself someday. I also had a similar experience, but instead of James Charles, I was watching Natalie Wynn and what was happening with her YouTube and Twitter. I feel like at some point, I'm going to fuck up and the canceling army is going to come and try to destroy me. As a consequence, I've been very careful in what I tweet and what I engage in. There's many conversations that I don't even engage with, even though I think I could add something, because I'm afraid of the backlash. I'm very careful with who gets airtime on my channel and how it's portrayed and the framing and everything. I'm very careful with who I associate with and practically run background checks on Google, making sure I'm not accidentally affiliating with somebody dangerous that will forever taint my name. So, what was the specific thing that kicked off this sharing session? I think it was a combination of this intense suffering, loneliness, guilt hole I've fallen into, and Miss Wynn's wanting to know and speak about her true self, plus her loneliness in coming out as a trans lesbian. So, lonely old me empathizing with the loneliness on the screen. Beyond that, on some level, I don't think I ever really fit in anywhere. Some of the otherness for me probably comes from the bipolar and stuff, and the other part of it is probably not really being able to know my true self. So let's start with the things that I do not doubt. I was lucky enough to marry my high school sweetheart and stay in a relationship with him over 20 years later. I have the person that I want to wake up next to for the rest of my life. I am incredibly lucky. I also get this primal caveman lust for hot guys, including my husband. I cherish the people I have in my life at this point, and any otherness I feel isn't their fault. Then there are the things that I've come to question. If for some reason you're seeing mine, but you haven't seen the Contrapoints shame video, there was a point where my husband turned to me and went, "Well," where Natalie said,
"Straight women are ultimately attracted to men and sexually aroused by male bodies. Or are they? Gay men certainly are, and gay women are just rhapsodic about women. But a lot of straight women are just kind of meh about male bodies and men in general. Which, what is that about?"
And I couldn't say. It certainly isn't my experience. As I mentioned, I do get this sort of caveman primal lust for hot guys, but because I've been in one romantic relationship which started in the 90s, I don't really empirically know what my orientation is. A lot of thought has gone into this over the past year, maybe longer, and a lot of recontextualization for things has happened. Cringe example, because when am I ever short of those? I know my husband's type. I don't mind him window shopping. So, I would help him window shop by pointing out a woman I thought met his type, and strangely enough, probably half the time I'd be wrong. Recontextualization. Hey, idiot. You're allowed to check out women for yourself. You're allowed to feel something when you do. That primordial caveman lust again. And while we're being painfully honest here, I've had a fair number of dreams centered around women or men or those who lie betwixt. Or fantasies, even. I just want to add here at this point that I'm okay with this sort of just being a question mark for me, not having a definitive label for my orientation. I'm in a happy relationship with somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with. This is just going to be one of life's little mysteries. But I don't think I can fairly speak as a straight woman for how things are. And I certainly can't speak to the LGBTQ experience because that's not really one that I've lived. So I'm just here, being me, doing me stuff. And then this is where we start to get extremely uncertain, but again, in a way that I'm okay with. I was definitely a tomboy growing up. As soon as I had any say in my wardrobe, pink was banished from my clothing. Forever. To this day, even. I didn't want the girl toys from McDonald's, I wanted the boy toys because to me, the girl toys were lame. When the neighborhood kids were playing like Ninja Turtles or something, I wanted to play with them. I didn't want to have to be relegated to April who had to be rescued or whatever. I wanted to play with the cool toys. My favorite fictional character for a good stretch of time was Indiana Jones, despite my mom's best efforts at trying to get me interested in Anne of Green Gables. I wanted action and adventure. In one of my high school classes, a guy who was friends with me and my now husband, then boyfriend, was talking to me about the hot women of his apartment complex. Then he turned, looked at me, turned beet red, and said, "I shouldn't have told you those things, I'm sorry, but you're one of the guys." Hell, I got married in a judge's office in pants. I hate dresses with a burning passion. And the societal headfucking comes in because I don't know if I would have turned out to be the video game playing, dress hating, cool girl if a lot of these sorts of personality things for me hadn't been born out of a fuck the patriarchy, girl power sort of mentality. Basically, bottom line of all of this is cis woman is probably the best descriptor for me, so she, her, all of that. Even though being referred to as a woman or a lady can feel exceptionally weird to me, but that's on me and the societal head fucking. So, this is how my past month has gone, as is the kitty. How are you doing? Worst one-sided phone call ever. Maybe not. Hopefully this gives another example and some context for the weird life events that can just kind of combine into a bad state of mind, and also where I'm coming from on some of the things. As I said in the tweet I mentioned, this is just something that my brain cycles into periodically. It'll pass. I may have cried a good chunk of this past weekend, but I'll come out of it. So it goes with my brain. Enough of that. As I said at the outset, next week we'll be doing another Peterson video, so until next time, bye!